The Nigerian slang Akata has been trending. So what does it mean? It's simply used to describe any American who is dark-skinned. Simple. Or the way of life of Black Americans. It's not derogatory. If we wanted to be derogatory, we would qualify it with something else like useless or momo. That momo Akata person. That useless Akata guy. Akata is also used to describe the United States. For example, I dey go Akata, meaning I'm going to the United States. If anybody has taught you otherwise, please verify from another Nigerian. Because Akata is indeed not a derogatory term.
The word Akata is becoming the problem. I remember coming across videos of Black Americans complaining that Nigerians are being condescending towards them and using a certain slur. And the slur they mentioned was Akata. It is not only used for Black Americans. It is used also on Nigerians who have stayed away from the culture, Nigerians who grew up abroad, Nigerians who know nothing much about their culture. Yeah, just something like that. So it was not meant to be derogatory, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are Nigerians that use the word in a derogatory way, because I want to believe that they will not just be complaining like that if Nigerians haven't used it in a derogatory way. And I really think if you're a Nigerian who uses the word in a derogatory way, please try and stop. Because I know some of you are very used to these kinds of things. Small word that are a nickname, you turn it to an insult. All these words are not meant to be insulting. So if you are using it in an insulting way, you better stop, because it's creating a bad impression. Now everybody thinks Akata is a slur or a derogatory term.
Good morning, tribe. Happy Monday. I hope you guys have a blessed week. I'm coming in with a short message regarding the word Akata. You might have heard this word Akata. You might have been called this word Akata if you're like me. I have been called Akata, and I get called Akata frequently. And this word kind of now has a negative reputation. I just kind of wanted to talk about the meaning of the word. So the word Akata is a Nigerian word from the Yoruba language, and it means a cat that was raised outside. This is a word that is also used to refer to Africans or individuals with African ancestry who were raised outside of the continent. It's not an insult. However, you do have to pay attention to how it's being used, the context of the conversation, the intention that the person who's saying this word to you carries, right? So for me, I am African, but I left Africa at a young age. I grew up in America. I have American ways. I have African ways, but I have American ways. So yes, I'm an Akata, all right? And so as an African American or someone from the Caribbean, you might be called this word, but not as an insult. It could really just refer to, yes, you're one of us, but you were raised outside and you have outside ways. But then again, it can also be used as an insult. So just pay attention. But you don't have to be so, defensive or worried about this word, because it really just can't be used to say, oh, okay, so you're not from here. And yeah, I don't mind being called Akata, depending on how you say it though, right? I don't mind, because yes, I am Kenyan American. The American part of me is African American. And I'm proud to be associated with African Americans. I love them. They're my brothers and sisters. Same thing with the Caribbean. Same thing with all my other Africans. I really don't care where you're from. If you're melanated and you resonate with being African or having African ancestry, I don't mind being associated with you. So Akata, call me Akata all day. I don't mind.
I just lost a bet, but I gained some education. Amen. All right, so I'm first gen American, but I'm a Niger girl, okay, through and through. So I asked my friend, or my friend just in passing, he's a Niger guy, like born and raised, and he's an older man or whatever. He called me Akata just in passing. And me, as an American girl too, as well, I was offended, and he was confused. He's like, girl, why are you so offended? Like, that's who you are. Like, that's a compliment. You should be happy. And I'm like, a compliment? I thought that was derogatory. He's like, if you sit here and ask 100 Nigerians, if you're an Akata, they will say absolutely no debate. And that's exactly what I did. I reached out to all my Lagos friends, everybody on Twitter, Instagram. I said, just honest answer, don't patronize me. Do you consider me Akata? All of them said yes. So I asked Igbo people, I asked Yoruba people, and then some of my fellow first-gen American Nigerian people also answered. And I noticed a trend. Every single first-gen said, I am not Akata. Every single Igbo person, minus a few who really know me well, even if they're in Lagos, if they knew me well, they say no. If they knew me kind of small, they say, yes, you're an Akata woman. Every Yoruba person just said, yes, you're an Akata. So basically, in Yoruba, the term Akata is neutral. It's not good, it's not bad. It's just describing you as a black person who lives in America. You know, regardless of your roots. If you're from America, you're Akata. As an Igbo person, it's a compliment. They're saying, hey, it's the Akata girl. She's from America. Hey, she has money. She's living her best Akata life. However, to us first gens, you call us Akata and we losing our head. Because how you finna deny me? How can you deny me from my Niger roots? So, because when I was growing up here in America, they didn't want to claim me. They were using every opportunity to just splatter my name across this place because I wasn't like them. So that's why should I be running to associate myself when I'm obviously different? And that's why I wasn't excited to be labeled as such. But now that I'm knowing the meaning, it's okay. It's who I am. Amen. Akata girl.
Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Hope y'all doing well out there. Hope everybody's doing well. Kiki, how you doing? Thank you for being here as always. I appreciate you and hope you're doing well. We are here talking about this word Akata, but we're not just talking about Akata. We're talking about the words Akata and Tether. Looking at the 154 podcast, Godfrey and Akbar Baha Biamila, you know, they stay going viral. The word on that podcast is, it's the 154 podcast, a podcast created for Africa, but they stay talking about Black America. That's what a lot of people say, right? I tune in time to time. You know, we had a bone to pick with Godfrey about the last thing, but overall, I don't have a issue with Godfrey. But his co-host Akbar, I don't know. Godfrey might need to separate himself from that problem. This episode featured Van Lathan. And Van Lathan, I think, did a pretty good job. Not the greatest, but a pretty good job of articulating the FBA viewpoint versus how it's usually articulated by those who are either not FBA or are by lineage foundation of Black American, but don't consider themselves FBA or may even consider themselves an op of FBA, right? So Van Lathan was on the podcast and they got into a whole bunch of stuff. It was basically a conversation covering Black American identity, African identity, the tether debate, the Akata word, slavery, colonialism, Jim Crow, anti-Blackness, and misunderstandings between Africans and Black Americans, right? So we got two things we're getting into. First is this 154 podcast dealing with this word Akata, getting to the history of it, but also how it is used. And then we getting into the Lindsey Clancy case. I was interested in the Lindsey Clancy case. I ain't really dig deep into it, so I say, well, let's dig into it together. I'm coming in this not an expert on all the details in the case, but I did some research and I do have notes on the case. So we all gonna dig into it together and see if people on the internet are tripping or not. So you already know how we do this. Before we get deep into this podcast, please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, share, Make sure you hit that hype button. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and subscribe. And as always, I appreciate everybody for being here, for supporting this podcast and being part of what we got going on. All right. So earlier I was watching videos trying to get a better understanding of this word Akata. And what I watched the video that I just played. I did watch that one, but then I watched other ones. And in these other videos, they were explaining the word Akata, basically saying the origins of it is a Yoruba word, and the origins of it is a wild cat or an undomesticated cat. And other translations are a person who is disconnected from their cultural home. So a person who is of African origins, but know nothing about their African roots. But ultimately, they say it originally comes from like the idea of like you're a wild cat or an undomesticated cat. And that is the Akata. And then now it is what it is. But you're hearing, especially in the last two videos of the opening, the young ladies talk about the word being used for good and being used for bad. And I think a lot of it is the word being used for bad because, of course, we didn't create the word, but we know how the word is used towards us. So in that thing, because the reason why I titled this video the way I did is because even in the podcast, Van Lathan is asking about the existence of the word Akata. Why does the word exist? Because they're also asking, why does the word tether exist? So that's why I want to get into understanding why these words exist, but also looking deeper into this relationship and examining this conversation, picking out why these in my opinion, why these misunderstandings still exist. Why the misunderstandings still exist, why the diaspora war still exists. And I think one of the main things is people are not listening. And I've been saying this for the longest. I know a lot of people don't like my FBA debates and my diaspora war debates because I don't fuel the fire, and I will never fuel the fire. I'm not here to fuel the fire. I'm here to get some understanding because I understand the bigger picture. But I also, in understanding the bigger picture, I understand that historically, African people have never been united. Coming in understanding that historically, African people throughout the diaspora have never been actually united. This is an idea that we're pushing towards. The Africa 154 is an idea. Pan-Africanism is an idea. The diaspora as a whole is an idea because Black people around the globe have never operated like that. Go read Destruction of Black Civilization when Chancellor Williams talks about how the tribalism was, I talk about it all the time, the tribalism was played upon to be able to go in and overrun different groups of African people. What's going on, Kush? How you doing, my brother? I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Africa has never been, well, African people as a whole, no matter whether it was on the continent or throughout the diaspora, African people have never been united as a one group of African people. That has never happened in the history of the world. And if it has happened, please show me. If I'm wrong, let me know, please, because I don't mind saying my bad, I was wrong. But I haven't read that. I haven't come across that information. So coming in, understanding that, right? But also, the way we interact with each other, especially post-colonialism. Post-colonialism, the way we interact with each other is at the root of it influenced by how we interact with our colonizers and what information our colonizers have engineered into us, how we've been programmed to operate, how we've been programmed to look at each other. And that's still building off of how we already looked at each other pre-colonialism. So I'm not really surprised at the way we are behaving within these diaspora wars. But the thing that gets me is everybody who calls themselves conscious and everybody who calls themselves supposing to know better, a lot of these people aren't doing better. A lot of these people are throwing fuel on the fire. We can recognize the disrespect and check the disrespect without making things worse. And I think that's what a lot of people do. So, hey, it said, I'm good. How you doing? Sensible topic. Yeah. Well, you know, I want to do something different. I want to do something different because I didn't want to continue with the violence and things. We get it. What we gonna do about it, you know? But I did want to tackle this because I kept seeing this. So I was like, man, let me check it out. And then I watched it and I was like, So I was like, let's examine this together and see if let's listen to what Van Lathan is saying. Let's listen to what Akbar is saying, and let's listen to what Godfrey is saying. And let's really examine what's going on. But let me read this first, right? Because like I said, I was watching videos earlier, and from what the gentlemen in the videos that I was looking at earlier, who they from what they said that they were Yoruba men, and Akata was a Yoruba word, and Akata basically translates to an undomesticated cat or a person who is disconnected from their roots. Now, according to this, sociologist Onoso Imoagene studied relations between second-generation Nigerians and African Americans, and specifically examined exchange of ethnic slurs. So this is according to her research. Her research identifies Akata as an ethnic slur used within Nigerian communities towards African Americans. She writes that it has been associated with ideas that African Americans are rootless, uncultured, improperly raised, aggressive, or otherwise socially deficient. Another academic study similarly describes the term as generally referring to African Americans as carrying negative connotations, including unreliability and unpredictability, with acknowledging that some speakers have attempted to use it without those associations. So that doesn't align with what the Yoruba gentleman described in the videos earlier. I will say that, to be fair, because I am being fair and I have to be fair. The gentlemen who were talking about the word Akata and the roots of it, it didn't align with what Onoso Imoagene is saying. So I have to, get more familiar with her work and what she's saying, but this is what she's saying Akata means versus what the other brothers are saying what Akata means. But I want you all to pay attention to how Van Lathan describes Akata being described to him, how Akbar describes Akata, and how Godfrey describes. But just pay attention to the conversation between them, but also pay attention to how Godfrey responds versus how Akbar responds. So let's get into it. Please hit that like button. Please hit that like button.
John Wayne, out of his mouth, said that he believes in white supremacy until black people are evolved enough to take care of themselves. If I'm not going to take it from John Wayne, I'm not going to take it from Emmanuel Acho.
154, we all connected, baby, you already know. I'm talking 154, we bringing Africa around the whole globe. Ain't no place like home. Ain't no place like home. Ain't no place like
Welcome back to another episode of 154. Today's guest is one of the most respected and influential voices in media. Raised in Louisiana with roots in Nigeria, he's an academic award-winning executive producer, earning an Oscar for Best Live Action Short Film. He's an NAACP Image Award nominated podcaster, unfiltered host, fearless media personality, bold political commentator, acclaimed writer, powerhouse journalist, cultural critic, insightful author, and successful entrepreneur who's become one of the most trusted voices in modern media. Many first got to know him during his time at TMZ, but today he's become a media force in his own right. He's a black media staple who's never been afraid to challenge the status quo or speak uncomfortable truths. Whether he's breaking down politics, pop culture, race, or sports, he's built a reputation for telling it exactly like he sees it. He's never been afraid to say what everyone else is thinking. Please welcome the one and only Van Lathan to 154.
Bro, that's a hell of an intro.
Yeah, man.
Right?
And guess what? He wrote it all. Yeah, man.
This was not an AI intro.
Yeah,
this was
man.
Oh,
a real intro.
That's
Yeah,
phenomenal. I feel at home. Appreciate
A lot
y'all.
of commas in that also. And he's one of the greatest black men ever. He once met Harriet Tubman.
I said, all right, Godfrey, damn, just stop it right there. No
My
more
mama
commas.
gonna love that. You heard what the man said about you? She love that type of stuff.
Because you're from the South, does your mom sit on the porch and like, you heard what you said what they heard my baby?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sitting on the porch is a Southern tradition.
Yeah.
It's hot. Sometimes it's hotter inside, but also it's community.
Yeah.
You just like, you see the woman across the street, your neighbor, there's storylines and all of that stuff. We just commune with each other.
Neighborhood watch.
You know what's so crazy? When you just said that, you took me back because I grew up here in LA in Crenshaw, and we had an old neighbor, rest her soul, Miss Thomas, and she was from Louisiana, and she used to always just sit back on the porch like this, and we'd be running up and down the street, running like, now you stop over there, I'm gonna tell your daddy, right? It was just like, and she was, I mean, literally had the pulse on the entire neighborhood.
Yes.
And so you try to do things around the corner so Miss Thomas couldn't see.
You ain't heard it from me.
Yeah, she's from Louisiana too.
Right, and you respected her out there.
We
as
did.
well.
We absolutely, we cried when she left us. You know what I mean? It's like, I was like, oh, I mean, all the time she told on us and all the whippings we got, but we, you respected her because she was the one out there all day
Caring
watching
for
us.
everybody.
Yeah, for
Yes.
everybody.
Yeah, man.
Well, before we kind of get into it, man, we have our tradition.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, there's a link. We're going to get into that, to the Nigerian roots. But we have, Nigerian snack here, chin chin. We have palm wine. Have you ever had any
I
of
have
this?
not.
You've never had this? Okay.
Welcome.
like to
to the
drink, though.
jungle.
Okay, this is different now.
Okay.
This ain't like anything you've ever had before.
Right.
All right? Straight from a palm tree, too. Boom.
Straight from a palm tree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
squeeze the leaves.
They didn't squeeze no
Squeeze the
leaves.
sap.
This comes out of the thing at the bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what it's called.
Thanks for the explanation. The thing from the bottom, the juice from the tree.
All right, man. All right, cheers. Here we go.
Cheers, man. My man.
Cheers
to brotherhood.
Yes, sir.
To brotherhood. Well, you got to try. Well, actually, we got to take a sip
this.
first. Yep.
You see?
Ooh, that's good. That's good. That's a fresh batch too.
Very,
Okay.
very
Yeah.
interesting taste, right? Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
Savory, a little
I
sweet.
hear
Oh,
you,
this is
Miss
good as
Vita.
hell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, be careful now. Because
it's gonna get me?
Yeah, because it's so light, but yet it will just sneak up on you.
Right
You
there.
know?
Like James Brown. Kill it.
How come y'all don't come out with y'all own palm wine brand? Everybody else doing that, man.
Yeah, well,
everybody got some
taste of Niger.
Yeah, taste. Ooh, I like that.
Taste of Niger.
There's a taste of Niger. Ooh.
How about Niger juice?
Niger juice. That's very close to juice, but somebody walk in the store, man. You see, I got that coffee selling that juice. I got some juice right here.
Oh man, so we gotta make the connection here.
Yeah.
When did you find out that you had roots and connection to Nigeria?
Did the ancestry.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was I work with a guy, Jomi, my man Jomi. His name is Oluwajumilaju.
Okay.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oluwakemi, so he's Yoruba.
Yoruba.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so I work with Jomi, and we always talk. Jomi comes from a beautiful family, a beautiful Nigerian family. Jomi teaches us just from knowing his people.
Yep.
I've learned so much. He taught me about the prostrating.
Oh, the process. Oh yeah, when you have to. Oh yeah.
He taught like Jomi taught me about the prostrating.
Yes.
I got deep a couple of years ago into the Jollof Wars.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you ever wanted to like just have fun on Twitter, I just go, yo man, I just came from Jomi and them place. I gotta say, Nigerian Jollof is the greatest Jollof of all time.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. This podcast is over.
And then people hit you up, yo, have you ever had Ghanaian Jollof from Senegal, like Sierra Leone, all of that.
Yeah.
So just, I have had, so I'll go back to finish, is that I did the ancestry, then I hit Jomi, I'm like, look, bro, 20%.
Yeah.
20% Nigerian, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And I think just from being around his family and being around his culture, I've seen them take who they are and bring it here to America.
Yeah.
Jomi was born in Nigeria, but he left when he was very, very young.
Yeah.
So he is an American black man, but at the same time, what orients his view of the world and his view of himself are the bonds and the cultural roots from his country. And I've come to
consider
appreciate
him an American black man. You hear what he just said?
I know.
I got to try that Senegalese jollof. I think I've had Nigerian jollof and Ghanaian jollof so far, but I got to try the different types of jollof. I ain't know the jollof went that deep out there. I got to try the Senegalese jollof. I got to try it.
I know. We gonna get. Go ahead. Go. You go.
You, as an American black man, just said, you know, he's an American black man.
Right.
He was born in Nigeria.
Yeah.
We were both born here.
Right.
And sometimes we get toasted in the comments. You guys are tethers. Have you heard that one?
I have.
I don't know what the hell a tether
We're
is. I
tethers.
still don't get it.
And we were born here.
Right.
Yeah.
Crenshaw, Chicago.
Now I don't believe Akbar when he says he don't know what a tether is and he don't understand tether. I think Akbar plays ignorant a lot. And I think we're going to see a lot of that in this interview. Oh man, I got it. I'm booking my trip to Italy. Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Yes. But I think the word tether has circulated a lot, but I do think that word, like Akata, is misunderstood, and that's why my attempt today is just to bring a little more understanding to both words, not to throw fuel on the fire, but to bring a little more understanding to both words and where the words come from. Like I said, that's why I started off the video like I started. The cultural critic, what's her name again? Let me find it. The cultural critic, Onoso Imoagene, according to her and her research, says that Akata is an ethnic slur used within Nigerian communities toward African Americans. According to the Yoruba men, the video that I was watching earlier, the videos that I was watching, they were saying the origin of the word Akata means like an undomesticated cat or somebody who is disconnected from their roots. But everybody is acknowledging that the word Akata is used as a slur. Now, the word tether is definitely a slur. The word tether is definitely a slur. And the origins of the word tether comes from Tariq Nasheed, I believe, is the one who coined the term. And it comes from, he got it from the word us, because the tethered class were those underground people who were tethered to the people overground and mimicking all their things and basically cosplaying as them. And how I've always heard Tariq Nasheed use tether is for those of the diaspora who come over and disrespect Black Americans. Now, I've heard, I will say, just to be, if we being straight across the board, there are a lot of people who are FBA who about that bullshit. And they use the word all willy-nilly, and they use the word for the blanket statement for all non-Black immigrants or all immigrants and things like that. So I'm not going to put that on Tariq Nasheed. I've never heard Tariq Nasheed call all immigrants tethers. I've never heard Tariq Nasheed make that a general statement. I've only heard Tariq Nasheed use that towards immigrants or even people of the diaspora whose behavior has been deemed disrespectful. So, but you said, from my point of view, Akata is bad, but in Senegal they called me Toubab, which is white. Oh yeah, that's but why do these words exist? And that's the thing. Why do these words exist? Because Van Lathan is going to make a good point about the idea of being Americanized, and that I think we need to get on. Said the B word, original meaning is a female dog, but it is used as a slur. We know Akata is a slur. No, we know. Trust me, I'm not dancing around the bush. I'm not saying it ain't a slur. I'm telling you what the people, I'm giving you a foundation of what people are saying. Because hold up now. I'm building this up. This is a slow build. Trust me, I'm not pussyfooting around it. It's a slow build. I'm just giving some foundational ground and some foundational context. But let's keep going.
And the fact that you called your man.
So he is.
Okay.
He is not a black American.
Right.
He's an American black man.
Okay.
So
Wait, what's the difference?
Yeah.
How are you distinguishing the difference?
So the way I distinguish the difference is this.
That's a good point, Kush.
We're all black.
Yep.
Yes.
He is American by nationality, right?
Yes.
So that makes him an American black man. I feel like where we trip each other up a lot of.
Hey, nah, you good, L. You good. Hey, nah, but keep that energy. I like it though. We good. Keep that energy. I like it though.
Times is that when I say black American, what I mean is that my ancestral home is South Louisiana.
Right on.
Like that's my ancestral home.
Right on.
My lineage and my origin, as is the rest of the world's, is African. And I think there's a lot of humanity and a lot of understanding that's to be taken from that.
Yeah.
It's very important that black people know that there is a lineage and a history that predates white supremacy, that predates the invention of the word black to describe you as black.
That's right.
You just have to know that, because if you don't know that, then white people invented you. And so that's not the way that it happened. As a matter of fact, it's probably more accurate that you invented them. But the reality of the situation is, as far as my culture, what I am, that was established by old black people from South Louisiana.
And so right now he's making a distinction between what he's saying an American black is and a black American. Basically, someone can be black and possess American nationality while belonging to a more specific ethnic or ancestral tradition. When Van calls himself Black American, he's identifying his ancestral community in the United States, right? So specifically, he's from South Louisiana. I am from North Florida. My lineage in America is North Central Florida, from Jacksonville, Florida, down to DeLand, Florida. So I'm a real Floridian, like a real Floridian. So, and that's the distinction that he's making. And in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that distinction when it's in a healthy mindset, when it's in a healthy framework, right? Because understanding that, yes, we're all up to diaspora, but there's differences. And I think that's one of the things that we are missing in the collectiveness of the diaspora is there's going to be differences. We're not all the exact same. We have a lot of similarities, which we should embrace, but we should we should also embrace our differences, because there are cultural differences, there are ethnic differences, there are national differences, there are phenotypical differences. There are all these different differences. There are all these differences that we have, but that doesn't make them bad. The similarities are good and the differences are good. The bad comes in when our differences are used against us, and that's the point that Kush is getting at. Like, he says, I think these words exist because we haven't figured out how bad colorism is altogether. Basically, colorism and white supremacy, how it really works on us all together. But the diaspora won't work if the similarities and the differences aren't embraced. And I ain't gonna lie, I don't want to be called a domesticated cat or undomesticated cat. I get it. I get a lot of people don't think that it's a derogatory word, but I'm raising my hand. I don't want to be called an undomesticated cat. I'm just saying. But we're gonna get further. How you doing, Elizabeth? He said that's why Barbara Wilson said stop calling. There you go. Elizabeth said if a cat has kittens in an oven, that doesn't make them biscuits, stated by Malcolm X. Yeah. True, but we're not saying that we're not of the diaspora. But what we are saying is we are Black Americans. Just like somebody from Benin is somebody from Benin, somebody from Togo, somebody from Togo, somebody from Nigeria. Like, we're all of the diaspora, but we're from different parts of the world that make up this diaspora, and those differences should not be overlooked. All those and Van Lathan even gonna get to it. Our history and culture, where we are, should not be diminished within the larger scheme of the collectiveness, because that's where a lot of the tension comes. So far, clarification, I being American Black because I'm a first generation American, but my mother been here since she was 5. So according to what Van Lathan is saying, according to Van Lathan's logic, yes. Now, so I personally have always called everybody Black. I've always called everybody Black, and I've always recognized the national, ethnic, and cultural differences as well. But you know, if you were a Black person and you working against the better good of everybody, that's when I got beef with you. So, but let's continue.
That had to reinvent a culture on the fly in some of the harshest, most dire circumstances. Yep. I honor them by honoring their cultural technology. That's not to be different or to set myself apart from worldwide diasporic Blackness. That's not what I'm trying to do. Yeah, right. But my identity is in them. Sure. And they're unique.
And so that's going back to what I'm saying. Like, I don't have a problem with that statement of us recognizing and celebrating our ancestry here in America, because the idea is we shouldn't celebrate our history and what has happened in America. And I disagree with that. I do disagree with that. Now, I'm not saying that is a idea or sentiment that is shared by the continent as a whole, but that is ideas and sentiments shared by those who have been labeled as tethers, or those that I have heard being contentious. Because like I said, I've heard from both sides. I've heard FBA on that bullshit, and I've heard people of the diaspora on that bullshit. So, oh yeah, right. Yeah. So if I have to explain to you what I am, it's adopted identification. Your eyes tell you what I am when you see me. Somewhere it tells that we are of the diaspora. It tells we are of the diaspora, but we do have our own ethnic and national identities as well. That should not be downgraded, in my opinion.
Sacrifice and struggle and what they had to do.
Yeah, and you know what? I love your take on that. I really do. I appreciate it, because I look at it, and if I even centralize it to the United States, you know, you see the cultural difference between the U.S. The West Coast, the Midwest.
No, I agree with that. Because a tether is that. Just what you said. A tether is an immigrant raccooning. An immigrant raccooning. That's the origin and the definition of the word tether. Now, there are other people of FBA who use the word way more loosely, but that is, from my understanding, what a tether is.
The South, the East Coast. But then there is this identity that links us all. And I think where, you know, Godfrey and I get frustrated because, you know, you asked earlier before we got on 154. 154 means one continent, Africa, 54 countries that make up Africa. But when you go back to the one, there's one diaspora when it comes to the African diaspora. And so the entire premise of this podcast is to be able to unite us. And so when we get the, you know, division in the comments, it's like, it's so irritating. And you go like, how can you elevate the conversation? I think of Michelle Obama, when they go low, you go high. But there's this idea of just trying to separate us rather than going, hey, you know, you just live on this side, you live on that side. But
I think one of Akbar's problems is, I don't think Akbar really be reading the room, because he's talking about division in the comments, but a lot of the times you get the pushback that they get in the comments. Now, I'm not going to say that they don't get trolls and people coming in comments on that board. I'm not going to say that, but a lot of times that I see the pushback, especially Akbar is getting, is because Akbar is not reading the room. Akbar is not, and he's not listening to what Foundation of Black Americans are saying, especially going back to like the episode with David Oyolowo, right, and other guests that he's had, and they, you know, that conversation surrounding Foundation of Black Americans. And I think he's tone deaf on that. Either that or he just don't care. And the way he speaks is just like, I think Godfrey might need to separate himself from that brother. Because I like Godfrey. I do. I watch Godfrey podcasts. I like Godfrey comedy. I think he's funny. I like Godfrey, but I think Godfrey might need to separate himself from his brother. I mean, I was raised to be Italian, European until I tripped. Yeah. Because the thing is to me, like, I think we should, the reason we get into our readings and the reason why we get into our understanding of our history, so we can have a better understanding of the collectiveness around the world. But the collectiveness won't be a reality if we can't tell the truth, if we can't put stuff on the table and really deal with it. Like, if you are a person that's doing wrong and somebody call you out on it and you got a problem being called out on your wrong, we'll never get to where we at. But yeah, I'm with you, Kush. Eric says, I have a big problem with Godfrey. He's disrespectful, two-faced. And see, I'm not going to push back on that. I am not going to push back on your comment, Eric, because I understand where it comes from.
When you go back all the way, and I mean, my man's Godfrey's got the history down, and I've learned so much from him in that when you think about, go back to 1884, the breaking up or the dividing of Africa, right? Mm-hmm. And you start thinking, you're going, wait, they just went up in this joint and just started pulling cats out and pulling them to America and breaking them and taking them to Brazil and spread us all the way around and go, and we're not family? We're not what? You're not this. I'm like, how can you tell me that? Like, right?
Yeah, but we didn't have a collective familiar identity across the continent before the slave trade. That's the point. That's the point I think a lot of people are missing. I think a lot of people come in thinking that we had a collective identity before the slave trade, and the slave trade broke up our collective identity. That's not true. We were a fractured people before then, and the slave trade fractured us even more. I haven't found information to show pre-slave trade, pre-colonialism, where the continent operated as one group of people, or they had some kind of united mindset, some kind of united framework. He says, can you explain what a tether is? Raccooning, new words. So basically, if you go back and you look at the movie Us, in the movie Us, you had the human beings and you had the underground people who were the tethers. This, I guess you could say, grafted a different group of people, and the tethers emulated and basically, they emulated everything the people above ground do. So Tariq Nasheed took that and played off of that. So a tether basically is a non-Black American immigrant who is either from the continent of Africa or anywhere else, who comes to America, who either disrespects Black Americans or cosplays Black Americans and disrespects Black Americans, or benefits off of the contributions of Black Americans and disrespects Black Americans. That's the definition that I've come to understand directly from listening to Tariq Nasheed. So people who are of the diaspora, who are non-Black, who their behavior and their words and all of their actions and everything are disrespectful toward Black Americans while somehow benefiting from Black Americans.
And so that's where I get, tripped up myself, is going, I was born and raised, everything that's happened to me. I mean, in my lifetime, growing up in South LA, I was like, how am I any different outside of the fact that my family came from Nigeria? So I consider myself bicultural because I am. I grew up in two different cultures. I leave the house and go in one culture. I come home, I'm prostrating, I'm eating fufu, I'm doing so. Yeah. Anyways, I don't know what your take is on that.
Let me ask you this. Yeah. Why do you think they're doing that? The people that do that.
Hate.
You think it's hate?
I'm gonna tell you why I think it's hate.
Hate in what sense? Like they're hating on you because
no, not hating on me. No, it has nothing to do with me.
I think there's an insecurity in there, and I think it's trauma. When we're talking about trauma, there's trauma, and they take it out on you.
Yes,
because of them maybe they're not having cultural resolve. Or their own identity. I think
it is the long-lasting impact of colonization, Jim Crow, right? And when you look at that, like I'll never forget, and I tell this story all the time because it was a pivotal moment for me. I'm sitting in LA, and I remember the first time I cried going to school, and I didn't want to go to school, and I get there, teacher says my name, I got a long name, everybody laughs, I go home, and my dad, don't mind them, they're all Africans. I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood. That made me feel so much better. I can't wait to go back to school, right? I didn't even iron my clothes, right? I can't wait to go back. My dad said, you guys are all African. No, I'm not. I got Indian in my blood. I'm Cree. I like anything to be anything but African.
See, things like that is what get Akbar in trouble. So from what I'm hearing, what I'm breaking down from this, okay, the first one is I think Akbar has a great misunderstanding of Black American culture when it comes to playing the dozens. And I hear this from a lot of people from the diaspora as well. They complain about being picked on growing up. And as somebody who was picked on every day growing up, I kind of tell them, get a ticket and get in line. And not to be, not to step on anybody's experience, but I think one of the things that they miss about the Black American experience is there's nothing unique about somebody who is of the diaspora, who's non-FBA, getting picked on every day. There's nothing unique about that. Like, I tell stories, like me and co-host Pat, me and Pat went to the same high school. Like, me and Pat got stories for days of the jokes that we got. I remember a whole classroom and the teacher went in on me for a whole period one day in school. Like the whole class and the teacher. It's part of the culture. Everybody gets it. Like, everybody gets it. I think that's one part that they're missed. And another thing is, your father doesn't dictate somebody's lineage. And I think that's one of the parts that causes some of the friction is when he says he was picked on, he went home and he told his dad, and his dad said they're all Africans. Then he went back to school and he said, my father said we're all Africans. They say we're not Africans, we're not from Africa. We have Indian in our family, all these different things. So it's just like, but that right there, is that really helping? Because you're saying my father said that you all are this and you all are that. And they're like, no, but we're not listening to each other. Fuel on the fire. I don't think Akbar be listening. That's just me. I don't think Akbar be listening. Hold on. My man PC, my brother, what's going on? Hold on, let me fix this. How you doing, my brother? Appreciate you. Say everywhere the diaspora, it should practice nationalism where they are. Immigrants should be respected to the national state they are at. Should be respected to the national state they are at. Y'all hear PC? Hold on, let me get my man.
Look at all this money, homie. I got all this money, homie.
See, well, I think that goes back to one thing I was saying earlier is we're not listening to each other. I don't think a lot of people are talking to each other to seek understanding. I think a lot of people are talking to get that point across and to say, this is what I said, this is this, and this is that and that. And now you got more fuel on the fire because everybody feels disrespected because nobody's listening. So let me find what a comment that said. This conscious history and psychology tells that tribalism is an early development phenomenon. There you go. Said true, we were beefing before the trade. Maybe Mansa Musa was the last one trying to squash the beef, donating gold through his Hajj. Says we were geographically separated, but not enemies. Others came and pitted us against each other, right? I wasn't even going to turn up on this one. It's draining levels of this BS. Had convos based on this video and the other video with Wyclef. Some people don't want to unite. Some people live, hey, look here. I'm just saying. I think Godfrey might need to separate himself from that brother. Just saying. I don't have a beef with Godfrey, but I do think there are those who are not helping. And like I'm gonna keep saying, I said it from the beginning of this video, I'm gonna say it from the end. There are those on both sides. There are those who are FBA and there are those who are of the diaspora, who are non-FBA, who are not helping. Y'all throwing more fuel on the fire. To Elizabeth Turner, that's not true. All African tribes were enemies of each other before. You saying all? That's not. Okay. I can validate exactly what he's saying. Not. All right. So, all right. Yeah, PC, I'm with you. I'm with you though. Like we gotta learn to. Well, we talk about it all the time, man. We talk about it all the time. We gotta learn how to relate with each other better. And the fact that we don't, that's why we where we at. But let's get back to it.
And I didn't know it then, but as I think about that, I'm going, oh wow, it's just anything to disconnect. Fast forward to now, you're seeing the FBA conversation and the ADOS conversation. It's like, man, it just takes me back to the idea that at the root of it is something wrong with being African, right? Like the only
But that's propaganda too. Yeah. That's because that made us feel weird. Yeah. Because I remember, you'd be like, I'm African, but I'm Black American. Because you were embarrassed.
Right.
It was embarrassing, and I'm like, why am I kind of embarrassed by this? Because of the images they show purposely. They show the Black American in Nigeria as the thug, and that's not the truth.
Right.
When you really look at it, most Black people are educated as hell.
Now, I agree with you, Be Easy. That's another part that is a problem that has to be addressed. And that hasn't been addressed, and it hasn't had a healthy environment to be addressed.
Studying a lot of Black history in college, I was super militant.
Right.
I brought Stokely Carmichael to my college. Francis Cress Welsing I hung out with. Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's still in the Senate. We brought these people to our school, Sister Soldier, all of them. And I was educated by some of the coldest. I studied Dr. Henry Clark, what's his name? Ben Yohanan, and I would go to Savior's Day. I'm in Chicago, so I'd go to Southside to go see the minister. You know what I'm saying? So I was really James Baldwin, I read everything. Yeah. And then yet you got people saying you're a terrorist. Right. I go, I was Chicago police. I get harassed by cops, called the N-word in school. It
goes back to the book Carter Woodson, like Carter G. Woodson, Miseducation of the Negro. And I think miseducating us on one end, when I say here here in the States, and then even in Africa, because they're not teaching about, Harriet Tubman. I see you got the piece, and that's not a core focal point, right? And so there's two different worlds we're living in, and then when we do call crossover and then we translate, there's a lack of grace that I see on both sides, and we'll get into some of these other topics as well. That but what are your thoughts on that? And how do we bring and bridge and unify the diaspora?
Well, see, even to your comment, Be Easy, studying the leaders don't make you of the lineage. I don't think he's saying that studying the greats make him of the lineage. I think he's saying studying the greats gives him a better understanding of us and what's going on. But I disagree with him, because if so, then the podcast wouldn't have a lot of the moments that it has. And even going back to the David Oyelowo interview and the fallout from that, and what Godfrey was saying that, and we had to get on Godfrey for saying what he said in that. I think Godfrey is studied, but I don't think the full understanding of everything is there, especially when it goes into these diaspora wars. And if there is an understanding, then there is it's a willingness to be, or to play ignorant, or to play the role, of the playing both sides of the fence instead of kind of telling the truth. Because even in this, as we continue to play, there's going to be some things that Akbar says that Godfrey had to come back and kind of correct him on.
So. Big questions, but legitimately to me, some of the central questions we should be asking ourselves right now. I'll say a couple of things. Number one is, I think there's a reason why you're seeing that happen more now than ever before. First of all, anti-blackness has become a worldwide tradition.
Yes.
Right.
It's not even, it's no longer structural. There's a cultural tradition of anti-blackness. Most cultures, even like cultures that have themselves been persecuted, have a word.
No
Right.
doubt.
They have
Right.
a word to say in their culture.
That's right.
They have a word to say. Now, particularly, it's been my understanding that when they use that word, a lot of times that word is focused at the Black American.
No. Yep.
A lot of times, not all the time.
Now, you as Van Lathan is talking, you all are hearing Godfrey agree with him. Godfrey is agreeing with him, but pay attention to Akbar.
Right? But a lot of times there's a specific burden sometimes, at least that I feel as a Black American, and that's because my culture is to be harvested and not to be invested into. So my culture can be harvested by anyone. It can be harvested as a Black American by other Black people from around the world. But there's not an investment that has to be made into it. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like you can harvest my culture. You can dress or act or behave as I behave, and then go and do something completely else that I can't access.
Now, let me answer Elizabeth's question. In my opinion, Elizabeth, Marcus Garvey, and Nkrumah would not be a tether because they poured into the culture. They contributed. They were not leeches. They were contributing to the culture. They helped us get better. So, in my opinion, they are not tethers. Others may say, but no, not over here. They would never be tethers over here because of their actual contributions to Black America. Now, he's talking about the openness of Black American culture. And I think I got two thoughts on that. The first is that's one of the flaws and the inappropriate behaviors that Black Americans continue to engage in is our excessive openness of our culture, despite us continuing to talk about how others are culture vultures. We talk about how other people from other cultures continue to come into our culture and just take anything, but the door is never closed. The door continues to be widened and widened and widened and widened. Now, on the other end of that, for the diaspora, because the culture is so open, others come and indulge in the culture, but like it's been stated before, nothing, like Van Lathan is going to say it, nothing is being put back into the culture. So these other groups are benefiting from what Black America has contributed, but nothing is being put back into the culture. That's a problem. So it's a two-pronged problem. We are too damn open, and we need to stop that. And on the other end, folk who are participating in the culture are not, and who claim to be allies of us are not putting back into the culture. That's a problem. Be easy, my brother. I appreciate your $3 super sticker. I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you for your support.
Look at all this money, homie. I got all this money, homie.
Thank you, my brother. Said Black civil rights leaders went to see Kwame Nkrumah in this country for assistance. All right, so let's keep going.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I can't do the things that you would do as a Nigerian or as a Jamaican or anything like that. Those are you guys' culture. Mm-hmm. And in order for...
But why wouldn't you? Like, but I push back on that. Absolutely you could.
Well, I'm not saying that I couldn't.
Yeah.
I'm saying that,
I get where you're coming from.
I'm not saying that I couldn't. I'm saying that
it's like
that is foreign. Like, you're saying that it's foreign.
Black American culture is like free domain.
It's free.
Like free domain. There's no protection over it.
Because and so what you see a lot of times is people.
Well, even to Akbar's point, even O'Shea Duke Jackson, who lives in Uganda, talks about all the time how you're not just going to go over to a lot of these African countries and just engage in business the same, engage in the economy, engage in the industries the same way people can come to America, and especially engaging in economics and trade and all those things with Black Americans. even those on the I've seen videos from Black Americans on the continent talk about that. So it's not the same. It is free reign in Black America, but that is our problem. But other cultures have cultural locks, I would say. They have safeguards on that culture, and we don't.
In my opinion, in a way that's not always the most nutritious way, try to establish some cultural protection on what it means to be Black American. Saying that we have our own culture that we've established, our own thing that we've established, and that is also sacred to us. Now, what I don't think is that there should be anything that happens to where we get out of cultural sharing as Black people. Black was co-opted by Black people. It was invented by somebody else, but co-opted by Black people so that we could be strong. So that Black power, solidarity, Pan-Africanism, all of that stuff, so that we could be stronger and so that we could establish a set of ethics and values that allow us to care about one another. But I think it's also important for us to remember, and I can't get into specifically the feelings and experiences of you guys and some of the things you might have experienced from Black Americans, some of the differences that might go on even on the continent or in the diaspora, right? And I also shouldn't try. What I should try to do is understand that we are facing things in this world that don't know that you're different than me, that don't understand that there's anything different. And those things and the tradition that we establish trying to fight them have to be together. But that doesn't mean, this is the way I look at the diaspora. I think the best way to do it is like the best way to go about this is how do we talk about each other when the other person is not in the room?
Great point. How do we talk about each other when the other person is not in the room? Now, from both sides, we know that there's derogatory language and inflammatory language and disrespectful language. Now, the history of this, though, is one of the main things that a lot of people overlook and a lot of people try to downplay is the history of this. These are things that Black Americans have been expressing about a few members of the diaspora for a while. And it exploded on social media. But I remember, I was born in the 80s. I remember in the 90s, these conversations. I remember these conversations here in Tallahassee, Florida. I remember these conversations in the 90s. And now it's gotten to a point now, of course, Dr. Claude Anderson was the original architect of the idea and the framework of the Foundation of Black Americans. And that was created so Black people, we could get what we could be in a better position to get what we owe legally by having a national designation. Tariq Nasheed took that and created what it is, and helped to, push it further. I ain't gonna say he created anything, but helped push things further into what it is now. And so we have to remember, though, FBA is a lineage, right? And so that lineage remains everybody who is of the descendants of American slaves. Now, that don't mean everybody gonna be smart, and that don't mean everybody gonna be on point. That don't mean everybody has everybody's best interest. And so we have to realize that across the board with all of these groups. That's why I'm always saying we can't broad brush everything. Check the disrespect, but don't broad brush everything, because we know there's sellouts in every group. But one of the things that continue to fuel the fire is the disingenuous conversations like Akbar is having and others who've came on the show that help fuel the fire. And that is basically saying that you Black Americans are only over here just being rude and mean to everybody else and just disregarding everything that happened prior to that, which is the problem. And the existence of the word Akata, because from what I was looking at earlier, the word Akata existed since like the 1950s. The word tether ain't even 10 years old. But Akata has existed since the 1950s. And like Van Lathan said, other N words for Black Americans. There's an N word for Black Americans in every culture. Why?
Yeah. Like, how do I talk about my Nigerian brothers, my Jamaican brothers, my brothers from the islands, my brothers from South America when they're not around? Do I talk about them as if they are me? Or do I seek to set cultural limits and exclusions from them?
No.
I learned the word when I was in my 20s. I'll tell you something, and the word was Akata.
Akata.
Oh, hey.
You know this word, right?
Oh, we know it.
Okay. Before we get deep in that, PC say, every group has diasporic disputes. Look at the Middle East, Russia, Ukraine. We're not threatening nuclear war with one another. Our Arrested Development has us seeing the world through the lens of it. We can't get it right. We can't get right. We can't get right. You know, we talk about it all the time, PC. We can't get right.
Look at all this money, homie. I got all this money, homie.
That ignorance, and like that's what I'm saying, that ignorance and that Arrested Development continues to fuel the diaspora wars. And like Neely Fuller said, when you don't understand white supremacy and what it is, everything else you seek to understand will confuse you. And that's where we are now.
Oh, we know. You ever see the movie Sugar Hill?
Bro, when that first happened,
Okay.
so what's this? When that first happened, I saw that movie, then I forgot about that. Right. And so I was actually, there was
You saw Sugar Hill?
No.
With Wesley Snipes?
Akata.
Oh,
Yes.
I was actually interested in a girl, and she was Nigerian.
Oh, okay.
And her brother told me the word. Like, so listen to me.
Oh, no.
It was, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. You mean to tell me that Wesley Snipes, that serious, that real?
Oh, no.
I was like, I thought that shit was for the movie. He goes, yeah, it doesn't mean that, but this is what it means. And this is the reason why you might have a problem getting my parents to like love you and take. Now, he ended up just kind of with me, not being wrong.
That's that Arrested Development PC talking about. That's that Arrested Development. But it don't. What doesn't help is somebody who's FBA sees this and goes full on rage and scorched earth on all Africans. That don't help.
Not being all the way real with me.
Right.
But my question then was, why was there a word for the Black American in Nigerian culture?
So I caught that the way I've understood it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Go ahead.
Is that like for me, like the way I speak, I'm born here in the United States, so I speak with an American accent, right?
Right.
Furthermore, I'm from the West Coast, right? So that sounds a lot different from, the South and so on and so forth, right? So when I go back home, Akata is almost as like, oh, he's Americanized. It's probably the best translation I can give it. Like you're a little disconnected, but it's okay, you're Nigerian, right? But that also, the deeper meaning to that, to me, the layer underneath that is the fact that for so long, Africans have been looked at as, like, oh, you're the other one, right? Like you're just, nobody wants, you want to be disconnected from Africa because it's poor, it's this, it's all these bad, attributes. And so that term is going, oh, you've been disconnected from us, right? You've been disconnected, but not in a disrespectful way, but mostly in a way. And it's over the years has turned into this slight little diss, right? Like, oh, it's
a gigantic diss.
Yeah. Like, right. Because to me, I felt like it.
Well, child of God, yeah, but yeah, like it is a gigantic diss. But even what he's saying, you're disconnected. I mean, yes, the slave trade happened. Yes, what we know about ourselves historically, culturally, nationally is American. Yes, but that's okay. Every group of people have an origin story. I was just so happen to be in here. Like it's our origin story is okay. The Haitian origin story, Dominican, wherever you from in the diaspora, your origin, it's okay. That's your origin story. It is what it is. But I don't think two things. I think two things can be true at one time. We can celebrate our Africanness and celebrate our culture. We can celebrate our Africanness. We can celebrate being a part of the diaspora, and we can celebrate our own cultures. Like I said earlier, we have similarities and we have differences. The problem comes in when we allow our differences to separate us. The problem comes in when we use the differences as means to create hierarchies and look down on each other. Yes, we have differences. We're from different places in the world. We're supposed to have differences, duh. But you're not supposed to use them as means to create more distance between each other.
And you might have your own different opinion on it. But for me, I always looked at it as like a protective thing. Like I have to protect our culture because these ones are coming in, maybe perhaps looking down on me. But here's the last thing, I'll give it to you. When you go back home and you show the respect, and I just came back in April.
Okay.
I didn't get any of the looks, because sometimes they can say it without even saying it, right? Everybody was so welcoming because there's a respect for the culture, right? And there's not like, oh, you're coming in thinking that you're better than me because you live in America and you know differently or whatever. So there's not that disrespect. And so, yeah, I'll kind of end it there and give it to you.
But what you're saying is, in an attempt to protect your culture, there was a term that was invented that was derogatory to somebody outside of it that is still black.
That's your theory.
Right.
Yeah.
If that's
my interpretation.
If that's your interpretation, that is why somebody would call you a tether. They would call you a tether for the exact same reason.
But why was the word Akata created? And this instance for what they're talking about in this conversation, why was the word Akata created? Because you're saying it's to denote somebody who is disconnected from the culture. The other Yoruba brothers I saw in the videos earlier were saying it's to denote an undomesticated cat, and then it evolved into being a derogatory term toward the Black Americans. But yes, somebody who, let's say, was born in Nigeria but then grew up in America, gonna be different. But I think, going back to the Arrested Development, these words exist because of the Arrested Development. That's why. These words exist because of the Arrested Development, and the Arrested Development is ingrained in us, and we like to play on our differences and use our differences to further divide us.
The term tether and Akata are the same. The
trying to be Black American.
Both terms are terms that are like.
Well, and I will be fair. Now, even though the origins of the word tether have come to describe disrespectful people of the diaspora, the way it is being used is pretty much the same thing. It's just like Van Lathan is saying. Tether and Akata at this point are literally the same words. Literally the same words, because we're basically saying the same thing. Well, the origins of Akata is this, and it's used like this now. And the origins of tether is this, and it's used like this now. But this comes from a lot of the fringe people, because remember, we're talking about lineages of people. So how do you control what everybody says? And you're gonna have the ones who lack the full understanding, who gonna be out here saying what they say, and words just get through all over the place. And here we are. You said, we must remember African tribes sold our ancestors. We come from many different tribes. Right. Now, but let's make sure we put context to that, the raw truth. When we say that, we want to make sure we're saying that in the proper context. Let's make sure we're saying it so nobody will mistake it. Unless you are saying there's an abundance of African tribes. But from my research, there was not an abundance of tribes. There were a good number, but not an abundance of African tribes who engaged in the selling off. Because remember, going back to the Arrested Development, and all groups of people have sellouts. Like all groups of people have sellouts. Our sellouts are one of the reasons why we are here.
Most racial slurs are seek to denigrate another culture, right? But the reason why they're doing that is because, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying they are seeking to establish the sanctity of Black American culture in the same way whomever came up with
But then
the
how
term.
do you then treat bicultural people? Because I know this because my wife is biracial.
Okay.
And so I now see it differently, right? And so she's talked to me about this, my pastor.
No, I never said the origins of the words were that. I said the way the word tether is being used now by some fringe members of the FBA. By some French members, it's basically the way that Akata is being used. Now I'm being careful, like the origins of tether and Akata are not the same, but the French members of FBA, the way that they're using tether, they're using it in the same way that Akata would be used. Oh, gotcha, the raw, gotcha. We cool, gotcha. I understand. And I just want, and I'm glad you said that, because I want to make sure people know that and don't twist up your words, because a lot of people there's some people who will see that and they'll take that and run with it and try to say you're all African tribes. So I appreciate that you're not saying all African tribes. So I want to make sure we got that understanding now.
Back in San Diego, Pastor Miles, biracial. And I never understood it because I grew up in an all black neighborhood, grew up in a Nigerian household, right? But he was saying, like, I'm not white enough, I'm not black enough. Where do I belong? And you just get casted away. And so it becomes a very difficult challenge when you have it. I'm like, everything that has happened to you here in America in my generation, right? I'm not going back to from 1979 forward. Everything that you've experienced, I've experienced. You can't tell me anything differently, right?
Certainly.
And so, but then I've also, on a second hand, have experienced a lot of stuff through my parents' stories, through their life, through the way they live and their culture. So I'm going, wait, I just don't belong?
No, I'm not saying that at all. Like, what I'm saying is,
because I would resent the idea of being a tether and Akata or anything like that. Yeah.
Like, when I heard the term, like Akata, I resented it.
Yeah.
You hear Nas rap. Some Africans don't like us, no way, right? And there's a xenophobia and a sort of protectionism that exists just from like country and nationality. There's a protectionism that exists from New Orleans to Baton Rouge.
That's
all right. So
human nature. Tribalism thing.
I'm from Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
The niggas in New Orleans say that we country, right?
Country.
So there's so all of this stuff.
It's tribalism. It's facts, because Igbos and Yorubas will say stuff about each other. But that's fine, because I think in an animal kingdom, there's always a hierarchy of, in bee colonies.
Well, I disagree with Godfrey when he's saying that's fine in the context of what we're talking about in this conversation, the overall context under the system of white supremacy, because those differences, like I said earlier, those differences is what we're continuing to use to keep us going at each other. And we're on autopilot. The program from the system of white supremacy, we're on autopilot and using these differences. The tribalism is going to exist. The tribalism has always existed. Hey, Tiffany, how you doing? Thank you for tuning in. The tribalism has always existed. And like somebody said earlier, PC said earlier, all groups of people, tribalism is not something that's exclusive to African people. It's not an African people thing. That's not a diasporic thing. That's a human thing. But somehow our tribalism is holding us back. Somehow our brand of it is causing us to continue to regress and not progress. So being able to look at, that's why I disagree to say that the tribalism is fine.
Ant colonies, there's always a hierarchy of worker bees and worker ant, that's facts.
Yeah.
But with this, like with the Akata, like in the movie Sugar Hill, there's a guy that kind of looks like him. There's the guy he's doing a deal with, and he's a tall, bald guy. He goes, and Wesley's like, so what's up? What are we doing business? I don't think it's going to work. He goes, what you mean? He said, we can't work with Akata. Yeah. He goes, hey man, what is up with this Akata you keep saying? And the guy goes, we don't want to work with cotton picker. And Wesley just
go crazy.
And I was like, yeah, Wesley, I want him to kick the right. Yeah, but
I had to go back. I had to go back and watch that scene. I just watched that scene about an hour ago, so I had to get caught up on that scene. But yeah, that's he's saying that's when he got introduced to the word, or Van Lathan was saying that's how he got introduced to the word Akata, because it was used in a derogatory manner in that word in that movie Sugar Hill when they was trying to do business with those Africans. I don't remember what country they were from.
I was always called Americanized.
Yeah.
When we went to Nigeria, everyone said you're Americanized. But then they would use Akata for Black Americans.
Well,
and so almost derogatorily.
And so my thing is this.
But see, that's different from how you heard what Godfrey said. That's different from how Akbar was trying to explain what Akata is. Godfrey came out and said it was used as a derogatory word, and Akbar is saying we're beating around the bush. Basically, did the same thing Van Lathan said the other African brother did when he was tap dancing, the beating around the bush, trying to give a explanation of Akata. It's used as a derogatory word. Let's just be real. It's used as a derogatory word. It's not used as a friendly word. And I hear a lot of people from the continent saying it's not a bad word. It's not a bad word. But the way the word is used, it is a bad word. And if you got a whole group of people saying, don't call me that, I think these are some things we have to listen to. But once again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is listening to each other.
Being called Americanized somewhere else is probably something that like they frown upon, right? It's some sort of cultural,
because you've lost your culture.
You've lost
right. Like you're not, you know, like
so understand that like that is our culture. So in my opinion, black people Americanized America. You see, we came here and we are the ones that had to invent a new cuisine.
That's
We're
right.
the ones that had to invent a new way to speak.
That's right.
We had
Music.
to invent dress. Music. We
All of that.
Americanized
Sure
America.
did. Sure
We
did.
gave America its soul. So if being Americanized is something that is negative, then that is not even intentionally,
Right, Johnny.
but
Good.
even subconsciously a commentary on American blackness. And so when we are trying to talk about American blackness, what we are legitimately doing, in my opinion, is, and it's difficult to do sometimes when it's in multimedia the way that it is and it's portrayed the way that it is sometimes. We're saying that our culture is beautiful too. Our culture is grand too.
Right.
I
Our
love
culture
the two is
like our culture,
Yes, that's
all
damn
the
right.
other,
Right.
because you go with like we are kings and queens. We always talk about how we were kings and queens.
We still are.
We're kings and queens now. We put people on. We have royal families.
Yeah.
The Carters are a royal family.
Now that's why I disagree with him. We do not have royal families. So one thing I don't want us to do is to give ourselves fake royalty and fake power and fake prestige, because the Carters are not a royal family. Black America does not have royalty, but that's our fault, because you can get that type of royalness or similar to the royalness when you have institutions. When you have institutions, you can do that. That's why I disagree. And we don't really have real royal families, but institutions is where it comes into being able to do that. And that's what we need to get to. But that's part of the FBA Arrested Development, though, right? Because we being real across the board. It's part of the FBA Arrested Development, because we haven't rebuilt those things for ourselves. So I've been in conversation with some Africans, and they would say, "Yeah, Tiffany, yeah." But I think once again it goes back to we've always had this tribalism between us. We've always had this tribalism between us. The tribalism has been played upon, and it just it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And I do think when you add in now they're wanting to have close proximity to whiteness. They're wanting to be able to get as many crumbs off of the table of whiteness as possible. So you have members of these groups who are willing to denigrate and step on not only their people, but our people, to make sure that they can get those crumbs off those white tables. And they will cosplay as Black Americans to get those crumbs off those tables. And I think that's one of the problems that we have with these diaspora wars or these misunderstandings when it comes to it. Because remember, going back to, we have people from the continent who have acknowledged and talked about how their family taught them to come to America and look down on us and not, congregate with us, not build with us, not work with us. It's stay away from those Americans, right? So those things are true. And then remember what we were taught. I'm not saying necessarily that our culture taught us that. America taught us that Africa was bad. Think about all the images and things that we've seen of Africa growing up. Once again, not saying that Black Americans taught us that, but what did America teach us about Africa and Africans? So at the center, basically at the center of what I'm saying, white people are still at the root of all of this, but it's on autopilot because we're taking all of this animosity and all these false narratives and all these things that whatever's being told and just running willy-nilly with it. And now we've moved from really looking at only white people to looking at ourselves, because that hence these diasporas, hence this conversation.
Right, like we have royal families. We do these things. There is nothing that is
Miss NBC,
less important or majestic about Black American culture.
Right.
It might be a little bit more dramatic. You might see it a little bit more in a different way. It might be a little glitzier because of the way that America is, but we've bled, we fought, we've died.
And there's an absolute respect for that. And I will tell you this, and this is from my experience. You tell me different, and I think there are a lot of people who agree with me. I was at a basketball game, and a woman came to me from, I think she was from Mali. I can't remember where she's from, and she was like, "Thank you so much for sharing your story." And I'm getting ready to walk in the game, and I'm like, I'm almost in tears. I'm like, dang, why you do that to me, right? But she was saying like the same way you were treated, and she's probably 7, 8, 9 years older than me or something like that. I too was treated the same way. And so when you talk about what's being said in conversations behind closed doors, I can tell you, whenever I've been to any of the countries I've been to in Africa, I've been to 8 countries, I still want to go to all 54. Bring me to America. America. There's this reverence because of what is marketed to Africa about America.
Yeah, certainly.
It's like there's this, oh man. But on the other,
I think he's still being disingenuous because yes, there's no doubt that there's a reverence for America amongst people of the continent. There's no doubt. But you cannot deny the disrespect as well. You cannot just try to lean on and say it's only reverence. It's disrespect too. That's why this conversation is being had. That's why we're here. That's why the diaspora wars exist. Yes, there's reverence. We've all, and black American people acknowledge the reverence. We grew up we grew up revering Africa. We know that. That's how we learned and come to a lot of our understanding outside of what white America taught us about Africa, through the reverence of Africa. We understand that. You talking to the wrong people about having reverence of Africa. Hell, some of us have a greater reverence than for Africa than the people on the continent. But that does not negate or eliminate the disrespect, though.
other side, it is like, oh, you African? I can't tell. I mean, all the way till when I was, all the way till when I was in the locker room. And so here's the thing. Because I played football, I had a sample size I think was just a little different. I'm in a locker room with 100 dudes from all over the United States, right? So you get a sample, and I've been through multiple teams, right? And no, shut up, man. You from Africa, man. Shut up, man. You from Africa. So I got dismissed.
We get dismissed
because I was African.
Shut up, African. Hey, African.
And
no,
so
shut
what
up,
I learned, and what I learned
I got mocked all the
in
time.
elementary, from elementary, I learned that if I became more ridiculous, I took the heat off of, you can step on my and I don't feel pain. I flew in on a helicopter to school.
And yes. But I think the problem is that has been broad brushed. Because your experiences in the locker rooms is still a small sample size. It may be people from around the world, but it's still a small sample size of Black Americans. And those people, and like Van Lathan gonna say, they're not the most intellectually evolved as well. So yes, you're gonna get some foundational Black Americans that's gonna call you all out your name, all type of disrespectful things and all those things there. But the problem is when you come back and you broad brush and you have the mindset of this is how Black Americans think of me, instead of this is how these individual Black Americans think of me. Hence the difference between Akata and tether. Akata is for a whole group of people. Tether is for specific people within the group who exhibit said behaviors. you may gave some people who are a member of a royal family, but they are not treated as such unless. There you go, Tiffany. There you go. There you go.
I'm like, what? You poor like us. What are you talking about, right? Yeah. I did anything so I could take the heat off of it. It was constant. I mean, when they would say, they would go through the names and go, whatever, the last name I knew, oh boy, here my name come up. There's a Bajabi. Me. I try to hurry up and beat it to the punch. So the class wouldn't erupt into laughter.
They did it so when you're going down the name of students. Godfrey that's me. Like Dan Chima. Hey,
I totally get that. So this is what I'm saying. Number one, is it a possibility that a football locker room might not be the most involved place in the world to have a
wrong?
Okay.
Wrong.
It is the most involved.
No, it's not. No, it's not the most involved or evolved place to have this type of conversation. It is not a football. Van Lathan is right. A football locker room is not the most evolved place to have that conversation. Now, that is not to negate what he experienced, and that's not to say that, we got a lot of ignorant FBAs. We do. But once again, the broad brushing or to have the mindset of this is Black American culture as a whole, that's where the disconnect comes in. I presume from a personal experience, the disrespect isn't happening in many of our faces. Use of the word, if the present is in the right. Let me make sure. So I presume from a personal experience, the disrespect isn't happening in many of our faces, right? If the African American Black ADOS FBA presents in a more prominent way, right.
Because where there's a brotherhood. No. I understand that. No, evolved. No, it is evolved. So what I mean is this, and this is not a diss to any of the brothers playing football. But what I'm saying is, there's a whole other part of this story. Yeah. A whole other part of this story is romanticizing Africa and being African. Right. And people for generations telling young Black Americans that your salvation is in what you were. Right. Because you were a king, you were this, your woman, you are the mother of civilization. Yeah. You started that. You are the original people. Yeah. You are all of that. And that focus sometimes is a focus that says, look to the past for the grandiosity of your humanity, because what you're living in right now ain't that. So there's also been, on the flip side of that, I'm not talking about you guys' experience, because obviously my man Ben Toure, I grew up with him in Baton Rouge, and Ben used to get it all the time. Ben was quick with his words, and he'll be quick to cut you down. Right. Ben used to get it all the time. Yeah. But there's also, in my opinion, this grand view. I mean, people go to Ghana and they weep, they cry. People go to Africa and they feel a certain feeling of connectivity of home and belonging. That
I know plenty of people personally who talked about first, before they went to Africa, how bad they wanted to go to Africa, and when they went to Africa, how they wept when they got to the land, how they wept when they went to Amina Castle, how they would just, even Dr. Joy DeGruy. There's a famous video of Dr. Joy DeGruy who talked about, like, the people got tired of her crying. The way Black people taught Black people about Africa was, and we revered Africa, we pedestalized Africa. And so that's why a lot of people, that's why Elizabeth's saying that reference is fading, because a lot of Black Americans, a lot of foundational Black Americans feel hurt by the diaspora wars. They feel hurt by a lot of the disrespect. They feel hurt by even going back to when Frank Zanu was a guest on the Daily Wrap-Up Crew podcast, and the members of the Daily Wrap-Up Crew was saying that we're trying to get an understanding because we want to be brothers. And Frank Zanu said, I don't want to be your brother. He said, look, he looked those young men in the eyes and said, I don't want to be your brother. That's the problem. Things like that are the problem.
There's a lot of that is because of the stories that we've told ourselves about who we were. Yeah. I think in the last 30 years, particularly, we've started to tell and want to tell a lot of stories about who we are. Yeah. And to me,
I was raised by old black people in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And those people wanted me to know what I am and what they did. They wanted me to know that they survived for me. They wanted me to know that me thriving in this world was honoring them. And they wanted me to know that it started in Maringouin. That their history started there. Not their entire lifeline. That goes back to the beginning of time and to who we all are together. I think the next step in this is when we all decide, and one day it'll happen, maybe not this generation.
Right.
Maybe after this podcast.
Maybe after this podcast.
Maybe.
When we all decide that there is something that connects our people that no one can.
And you, so yes, let me make that clear. Yes, Frank Zanou do not speak for all Africans. He does not speak for all Africans. But what was the most devastating about that comment that Frank Zanou made was those young men had so much love and reverence for Africa in their eyes. And when he made that statement, you could see the disappointment in those young men's eyes. Those young men are like in their mid-20s and doing their best to learn and contribute to the culture and sit down and understand. And when he told them that, you can see all the reverence drain out of their eyes. And yes, Frank Zanou, I've said Frank Zanou do not speak for anybody but Frank Zanou. He does not speak for the continent, nothing like that. But yeah, that was a bad look. And I think that's one of the differences that we're seeing in this when it comes to the diaspora wars is Black Americans, for the most part, before all of this started, we wanted to connect with Africa and make sure we are in brotherhood with Africa. And we didn't understand that a lot of the messaging that some of the Africans were getting was negative. But now that a lot of this is happening with the diaspora wars, you have a lot of Black Americans who don't want to have anything to do with continental Africans or anybody of the diaspora. And I'm always asking the question, in the long run, is that really good for us?
Explain. It's different and it's not pain.
Right.
We think that it is. We think it's a shared history or history that's unshared. There's something else and no one can say what. And it makes people feel uncomfortable when we revel in it, when we are joyous in it, when we share it.
They hate our
and
happiness.
not just Africa, but in the islands. When you see them, when you go, man, I remember going to Grenada one time and the brother in Grenada goes, man, we so happy to have y'all. Welcome to the Africa, the Caribbean. And me and Charlamagne look around like, what? Like we, you know what I'm saying? So like, when we understand that thing that the rest of the world can't understand about what it is to be Black, that they turn us on each other, maybe we'll stop doing it to each other voluntarily and figure out a way to move past
I was gonna say,
it.
like, even when I went to Jamaica last year, they're like, welcome home, brother.
Yeah.
And I felt it was like being in Nigeria. I was like, I didn't know that. It was so fun. And they were like, we've been waiting for it. It was like, what the? And then I was walking around because I was at Sumfest with Vibes Cartel. So, you know, and I'm walking around saying what's up to different people. You know, they know who you are. You know, oh man, brother. Then I see some girls. I say, oh, there's some Jamaican girls over there.
There you go.
I say, hey, what's up? They're like, we from Atlanta. I was like, I thought she go, we all look alike. But it was, I love that because I was like, oh, they look, you couldn't tell who was who. Every once in a while you get people go, okay, he looks Jamaican or he looks Nigerian. We're the same. And when you were talking about being American, you got Black Native Americans, Black.
And see, even that ideology that what Godfrey just said, we're the same. Godfrey is saying that because he learned everything he knows about the history, the culture, Blackness, and consciousness from Black Americans. Godfrey came up in the 90s and early 2000s learning from, like he said, Dr. Francis Cress Wells and Stokely Carmichael, all these people who were Americans or Americanized, who were deep into the culture, who were in the height of the reverence of Africa. So of course Godfrey would think like that. I think like that. I have to check myself sometimes and realize that the reality in my head ain't the reality that we're living in. So I would expect Godfrey to have that mindset going to Jamaica, like we are one. I've always looked at Black people like we are the same. So coming into now learning that all black people don't think like that. It's a little disheartening.
Black American, Native, Black Indians who were here, nobody was a slave. There are black people who were already here. Because I met Black Cree Indians. I used to know when I used to perform at this one spot in Pennsylvania, there were Black Cree Indians. They go, no, we've always been here. And they're speaking Cree.
See, with him just saying that goes against, that disproves what Akbar said earlier, because remember Akbar said he was getting picked on. He went home and told his dad he was getting picked on. His dad said, we're all Africans. He went to school and told everybody we're all Africans. And the people said, no, we're not Africans. We're Indian with this and this and that. And now Godfrey is coming back saying, I met real Black Cree Indians who actually speak Cree, who are actually Native Americans. Godfrey need to get him a new co-host.
They look like I never heard no Cree before. I was like, what? They're going amongst the lip. I was like, what the? It's like, oh, we're Black Crees. We've been here. You know, so there's that. So when you think of Native Americans, Black Americans, Native. There's Native. There's the Siberian ones that they talk about.
There's no part of the formation of this world that like we're not a part of.
Right.
I think right now there are people that are having conversations like this in complete good faith.
Yeah.
And then there are people that are obviously hustling the algorithm for their own personal thing. I think it's probably not constructive to look at everybody like that.
To his point, it's not constructive to look at everybody. It's not constructive to look at everybody, because if you look at everybody, you're not gonna know what the truth is. There are fringe people out here just saying anything on both sides. So yeah, good point.
And to put everybody in that boat. But what I do think is important, and even I've had to learn about this, to have these conversations in love and understanding to what people's personal experience and trauma is. Right? And so the trauma that I might have is partly epigenetic, right? But it's also partly just this deep sense of authority that my ancestors have. You go to Ventures Memorial Cemetery, you start off with my father in the front, and by the time you get to the back, there's slaves there, right? And so I owe them, and I owe them to assert their identity, and I owe them to not let their identity be denigrated by anyone, no matter what the shade of their skin is. But to me, we brothers. That's it.
And I appreciate that, man, because I love that, because that's how I've always felt. You know, like, to me, I've always had love for, you know, the people that I grew up with in my community, for the people outside of that, the people back home, like, to be able to have that level of acceptance, and for, you know, for us to spread that throughout. You know, the thing that I know to be true is that the work to divide us, like they divided up Africa, continues to work in the new age of the algorithm. It's like, how can we divide them? How can we?
I hear you, Akbar, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but I don't think you understand how you play a part into that with what you say. And that's why, you know, that's one part of the reason why I was making this video, to, you know, get a better understanding, bring more light to this, and kind of break it down a bit. Like, it's almost as if when Akbar is talking, once again, he's turning off his ears and turning off his brain. He's just spewing things out, and he's not really listening to what he's saying. Because if you are constantly triggering the algorithm to get the responses that you're getting, that means you might need to check something that you're saying. You got to check something what you're saying. Because I don't think Akbar is a bad person. I think it's the framework, the ideology, and the environment that Akbar is in. But also, I don't know how well he's listening to everything that's going on too.
Spread this stuff, and I'm like, no, man. Like,
I appreciate you,
and maybe I'm arrogant to think that our conversations can change that to where there is no longer the dismissal of the African, or, you know, the misunderstandings when it comes to, you know, Black American culture, like, to be able to educate us, because it's once we're educated on both sides and we start to understand both sides, because this podcast doesn't just hit here, it hits back home as well.
Certainly.
So the conversation gets to be understood about what's happening in Black America, and it's done intentionally, you know. And then likewise, we get to have the conversation because we've had a lot of African conversation here.
But on your podcast, you're not getting the Black American perspective without Black Americans on your podcast. Van Lathan is one of the few Black Americans, but especially one of the first ones I've seen that you come on to have this type of conversation. And I'm glad Van came at the angle. Van did as much truth telling as he could, right? I'm not gonna say he told a whole butt naked truth, but Van did as much truth telling as he could. But in order to clear up those misunderstandings, you yourself have to understand. You yourself have to be willing to listen, what I just got through saying. But also, I think you need to have more foundational Black American people on your podcast and not just anybody, but those who have the intellectual wherewithal to truly explain what's going on both sides and be intellectually honest and just be honest across the board. So.
Right, and it speaks to the people back home. But we're now and having you as our first, you know, quote unquote. And I said no.
As your first Akata. The first Akata.
Our first Negro. Our first colored guest. I want to thank you for coming.
I'm a barrier
out of
breaker.
segregation and Jim Crow. You're our first Jim Crow. You're our first Jim Crow. Excuse me. Not to be mean there, Mr. Sanford, but their first Jim Crow.
I was having a moment. I know you were. I was having a moment, and you gave him an opening.
But here's the thing also, is we really got to love Blackness, period. Whether it's African, whether it's Caribbean, I enjoy it all. Because I've never had a problem calling somebody my brother that looks like me. I've always, no matter what country I'm in, I see another, but oh, what up, hey. And we always have this acknowledgement. When I was in Kuwait, right? Performing in Kuwait, and you see the Black Kuwaitis, we already was like, hey, hello, hey. And I'm like, what's up, man? He goes, I said, how is it? He said, it's the same thing. Like them as darker Kuwaitis going through.
Because
you be in Amsterdam with the Surinamese people. I would do, Suriname, So I would do comedy, do Surinamese shows. They all look like us, but they're going like, and you go, so what's up? But he goes, this. It's the same. I mean, I don't think that it's a shame that we have to be connected by our pain, like you were saying, but there's a joy to seeing your own folks. I get.
But that's just it, though. We don't have to be connected by our pain. We're connected by our pain because of the arrested development. We're connected by our pain because we choose to continue to be connected by our pain instead of being connected by things that can actually empower us, because we refuse to empower ourselves as individual nations, as individual cultures, as individual nations, and as a collective of people. It's a continued choice to be connected by pain at this point. A continued choice. It's not something that's real. It's not something that has to happen. But we refuse to be connected by anything that's empowering, and we refuse to empower ourselves.
Get happy, and I like we got to get more into us. Loving us. I mean, loving what we do. Things that being all Black, there's nothing wrong with that.
But you know the one thing that
I don't always have to, like, people are quick to not include us in. They're quick to do that. But when we have something, we got to include them. Stay out. Just stay over there for a while. Because everybody always has to, but they're so quick to not have us. And we're always like, no, but let them.
But that's another Black choice. How many times you see everybody who's non-Black being invited to the cookout just because they did something that made you feel good? You know how many white boys invited to the cookout because they can dance? Forget his framework, forget the ideologies, forget how he actually is. He can dance, so he invited to the cookout. There is Black American culture is free reign culture for everybody. And because we have no safeguards on it, it is what it is. But then we can't complain about something that we don't actually try to protect. Because we try to protect it in the verbal sense, but in the actual literal sense, we don't try to protect it. But yes, you're supposed to safeguard your culture. Everybody should not have access to your culture, and that's one of our problems. Is we don't understand that. That's our lack of understanding of how a group should function, let alone a diaspora of people. The group Foundational Black Americans, we don't understand that everybody shouldn't have free reign to our culture. We don't understand that cultural safeguards are actually a good thing.
No, we don't need them here. And it's not a hatred thing. It's just we got to get our together.
Let me address something that was talked about on you guys' podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some time ago, you had Emmanuel Acho on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Emmanuel.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'll use that example of that situation as
MSNBC.
kind of a greater example of what it is we're talking about.
Yeah.
So people don't remember, Emmanuel Acho came on Higher Learning, and we were talking to Emmanuel Acho, and I insulted Emmanuel Acho on the podcast.
As he should have.
Okay? I did.
As he should have.
And I shouldn't have.
And I respect Van Lathan for taking the high road in this. I'm not gonna take the high road in this. I ain't gonna lie. He should have disrespected Emmanuel Acho. Emmanuel Acho is an emotional butler for white people.
Done that.
No. I appreciate the respect and the transparency that you have.
What did
keep
you-
going. Keep
who
going.
you insult?
No,
keep going.
I've told him.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I have, maybe I haven't. But I've definitely said it on the podcast. I shouldn't have insulted him, right? What happened was Emmanuel Acho came on and he was talking, and he was talking about the fact that
Oh yes, not to keep stopping me. Yes, shout out to Ibrahim Traore. But like I've been saying since we first learned about Traore, the diaspora should be rallying behind Traore. The entire diaspora should be rallying behind Traore.
he can talk to white people
I
in a way
remember that.
because he doesn't have the sting of generational trauma. And he can talk to black people because he's black and all of that stuff like that. So what I said, I completely meant. Okay, I said that he was an emotional butler for white people.
Damn.
And serving them up very milquetoast takes to make them feel good about themselves and having these conversations. Now, what I said, I meant, but that doesn't mean that I should have said it, even in the way that it was, even if I meant it, I shouldn't have said it in that way. Because what it does now is it breaks the opportunity for me to talk to him and let him know where I'm coming from. What he said was profoundly insulting. And it hit for me.
Why?
Because as a black man, as a black American, the fact that somebody else needs to speak for my safety and my advancement because I'm too belligerent is what white people say. White people look at black people, black Americans, as people who are not needing equality, but people who are needing stewardship. John Wayne, out of his mouth, said that he believes in white supremacy until black people are evolved enough to take care of themselves. If I'm not going to take it from John Wayne, I'm not going to take it from Emmanuel Acho. Okay? So, and I don't know even that he had investigated that statement enough to know the way that it came out. That's why a good communicator and someone who was not in their reactive mind would have done what I just did now. All right? But I didn't do that. What I did was sometimes what we do when we're in front of these cameras and stuff like that, I try to serve them.
Put on.
Right? Not that I didn't mean it. Not that that's not what I wouldn't have said if we were on the street somewhere, but it wasn't the best way to build something right there.
Yeah. Did you ever reach out to him privately?
We talked after that.
You did?
We did, which was why I was sort of surprised that he came on. It's not like that's been the end of my criticism of Emmanuel Acho. And we don't look at things the same way. I watched a bunch of the stuff that he was doing, and I thought that it was whack, but he was doing what he thought that he needed to do. A better version of myself is the version that can say, how do we have a conversation about this that is both about two different people who want to help, right? Who have the same goal, but might have different programming about how to get there.
Yeah.
So
I don't think you have a conversation like that with Emmanuel Acho. I think Emmanuel Acho is one you separate yourself from. I think Emmanuel Acho is gone. I think Emmanuel Acho knows who he gets his crumbs from, and he will do anything to make sure he continue to get his crumbs. That's why Emmanuel Acho has the emotional butler rhetoric that he has, and I think it's a waste of time to try to bring Emmanuel Acho back to the light. I think that's somebody you separate yourself from. I think you say what you said and you separate yourself from it. You don't try to build with somebody who has a mindset like that, with somebody who is an emotional butler for whiteness. Unless Emmanuel Acho has showed a pattern of behavior that is different for an extended amount of time, we can't work with him, and we can't go in with the mindset of how can we find a common ground to work with this cat, because at the end of the day, he's still compromised. He knows where he gets his crumbs from, and he won't do anything to compromise that. So will he really be a true ally, or will he be an impediment to what we have going on?
But that's not what I did. Now, I like to think that I do that in a different way. I like to think that the most important thing to talk about now is not to insult him, or to get off on him, or him to do it to me, but to have a conversation about why that framing is wrong-headed, and what that is really based in. And either we agree or we don't agree, but we both leave with a mutual respect for where we're coming from. Because now I'm not in it to win arguments anymore.
Well, once again, with somebody like Acho, respect is out the window. He said what he said. You said what you said. The line is drawn in the sand. Let's move on and build with those who we can build with. And we're wasting trying to convince people to get along, to get on board. That's a waste of time. You either down or you ain't.
People are dying. And we still don't have consensus on what the problem is. So if I can leave the earth having illuminated the problem worldwide, on a macro level, on a micro level, in what we're talking about right now.
No, PhD, you're exactly correct. You are correct. That's a term and things that was used, especially in the 90s. But coming back, looking at it now, I don't disagree with you.
If I can help illuminate the problem, I'll feel better about where things are.
I do not. I spent a lot of time with Acho,
PhD,
and I know
I
it's
agree.
hard. And I'll say that I think in the spirit of Emmanuel Acho, this is my opinion, not what Acho said.
Not
to
speaking
me,
for him,
not speaking for him, is that there's this idea of like, how do you move the conversation forward, right? And I think the most dangerous thing in the Black community, I'm gonna just speak up and keep it a buck.
Go for it.
I am a forward thinker.
No,
and
you're
I
not.
might get trashed and canceled for it. I'm like, I want all of us to win, but it's very dangerous to say we gotta win and move forward, because it can sound dismissive if you're not ruminating in the past, and even saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said ruminating. But if it's like, hey, we got it. We know the history.
But do we got it?
Oh, no. Yeah, we do. No, we
Not
do.
everybody
Not everybody do. But guess what? There's nothing that says you can't educate and continue to educate. I've learned so much sitting next to you.
Right. But you've learned so much sitting next to him, but how does that really translate it into empowering and building real institutions and Black people actually coming together? But think about your rhetoric. The reason why most people react to this podcast the way they do, and the reason why he normally goes viral. All areas of activity, Akbar, all areas of human activity in your life, you got to think about. I don't think he's thinking about that.
And we keep moving forward. But to stop the entire train and say this is the only way to be Black in America. This is the only way to.
The only way to. No, I'm just trying.
Say more. What you mean?
So the only way is to say, hey, if we look this way, and we will get on, because I think the fear is that to move the conversation, not the conversation, the progress. Like, where do we go? Like sometimes you and I, we've gotten into the conversation. I'm like, all right, but what's the solution? It comes from a solution spirit. Like, if the solution spirit, and it's not to ignore the past, because the past was evil, it was dark, it was hurtful, it set us back. And it's still happening.
People were just been hung couple.
Well, see. Once again, what if I keep saying about Akbar? What have I been saying this whole podcast about Akbar? Even Godfrey is trying to. He just said you've educated me on a whole lot, but you're not listening. You're not listening. What they're saying is, yes, the past happened, but being stuck in the past or just being focused on the past is not helping us. It hasn't helped us. In fact, what is happening right now? Because a lot of things that y'all stuck on in the past is still happening right now. But look at us right now. Where are we right now? And how has that really helped us? Where we are right now. But he's not listening. I've been saying it, but this is, once again, I'm not saying Akbar is a bad person. I think Akbar just don't get it. I think Akbar is highly confused.
Days ago. This is what I'm saying.
I understand that.
The past is still happening.
100%. 100%. 100%.
It's still happening.
100%. And so, because even that, it's scary. It's scary even because I know I'm putting myself out there to be shot right now, because if I say, hey, like, how do we get the solution to continue to move us forward while we are still wrestling with the past? We're still wrestling with the future, right? And what is to come in front of us? How do we have that solution forward conversation?
So there's a couple of things. Number one, the one thing that's been the most interesting to me that people, for some reason, refuse to understand is everybody has different jobs. It might be your job to be the forward thinker.
Right.
It might be your job to be the person that goes, I don't care what happened before. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to figure out. It starts now in 2026.
Right on.
And black boy by black boy, black girl by black girl, man by man, woman by woman, I am going to go out and make change, and everything that happened before,
that person that you just described doesn't have a chance.
Okay, but listen, it might be your job to do that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how I look at it.
Yeah.
Is there is no past.
What do you mean?
There are cycles. If you go back to 1961, 62, 63, and you listen to some of our greats talk, they talk about economic opportunity.
Yep.
They talk about police brutality.
Yep.
They talk about the vote.
Yep.
They talk about talk about equality.
Right. The cycles, I get it.
We are talking about the same things.
Yeah.
And the reason why we are still talking about them is because that past that we are talking about cannot be properly adjudicated until it is accepted as reality. See, here's the deal. Everything that America has asked black people to do, to be equal participants in America, black people have done it.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So America said, go out and buy land. We went out and buy land. We own more land in 1905 than we own now. Right now, the top 5 landowners in this country own more land than all of black Americans combined. You know, you got the, so go out and establish economic hubs and centers. Forget about everybody else.
We did that.
Like, go out and establish it for yourself. We did it.
In Tulsa.
They firebombed it from the sky.
Tulsa. Yes.
Not the Tulsa, the entire Red Summer. Everywhere.
Yeah.
They said every time we've done it, white America said no.
Yep.
And when they couldn't get Tulsa with firebombs from the sky, they put a freeway through it with urban renewal.
That's right.
Everything that we've done, educate yourself. Right. Okay, so we go out, we establish the HBCUs, they defund the schools. There's a glitch in the matrix.
Right. I'm gonna stop it right there, but there's no glitch in the matrix. There's a glitch in our understanding of the matrix. The matrix is working the way it's supposed to work. What about white supremacy says black people should be empowered? What about white supremacy says black people should have a chance, should have equal chances, that black people should be put in the best positions to grow what they need to grow and empower themselves? White supremacy is a stark opposition to anything that is black empowerment, anything that's going to make it better for black people. Their job is to destroy everything we try to build. And so That's why I say, good conversation by Van Lathan, not 100%, but good conversation, real good conversation. That lack of understanding of how white supremacy works, in my opinion, is one of the major things that hold us back. We don't understand the system of white supremacy. We don't understand how it has affected us and now how we interact with each other. Hence, this conversation. You can see that once again. That's why I said at the beginning: listen to what Van Lathan is saying, listen to what Akbar is saying, and listen to what Godfrey is saying. Akbar is talking but not listening. Akbar is representing a large portion, or Akbar is representing a portion of the diaspora that is throwing gas on the fire. Godfrey is representing the person who plays both sides of the line. And that's the thing. Like I said, I personally don't have a problem with Godfrey, but I understand why other people have a problem with Godfrey, because Godfrey played both sides of the line. And in this, Van Lathan played the 75 to 80% truth teller or let me restate that. Van Lathan gave them a real foundational Black American perspective, not a perspective that they have a foundation of Black Americans or another guest, but a real foundation of Black American experience, or an explanation of how we get down and how we see the world and our ideologies. So I didn't get to the Lindsey Clancy videos because I'm running out of time. So we're going to talk about Lindsey Clancy on Tuesday. We're going to talk about the Black response to the Lindsey Clancy case. I don't even know why Black people are involving themselves in this Lindsey Clancy case, but that's going to be our video for Tuesday, the Black response to the Lindsey Clancy case. Let me get to some of these comments. I see Johnny Good and who is that? I think the Raw. Y'all having a good conversation. Delineation happened for historic biblical reason. It's actually a war. You're saying delineation is a war? Melanin can't blind me. I wish to evaporate FBAs and replace. Godfrey is an enemy. You're saying you want to evaporate FBAs and replace? What does that mean? Evaporate FBAs and replace with what? What does that mean? I definitely have a problem with any African. All right. Actions without thought are blind. Yep. Yeah, y'all having a good conversation. I have no idea what the crux of that conversation is about, but y'all having a good conversation. But I appreciate y'all tuning in, though. Appreciate y'all tuning in and listening to me give my examination of this conversation and how it went, but also how it continues to hurt the relationships between Black people throughout the diaspora. But do give kudos to Van Lathan for giving the perspective that he's given. I think Godfrey may have come away with that with a lot more understanding. I don't think Akbar did. I don't think Akbar came to listen. I think Akbar was listening to respond and not listening to understand. And that's one of the greatest problems we have. Now, to be fair, like I've been saying the whole show, like I've been saying in the beginning, these diaspora wars are, the root of these diaspora wars is white supremacy, white people. Then you have the rhetoric that Africans were having toward Black Americans for the longest. The word Akata came to exist. The word Akata has been existing since the 1950s. Think about that. Black Americans start to respond. Diaspora wars is happening. FBA is created, or the FBA, the ideology is here, and you do have pushback on a lot of the disrespect. But then you have French FBAs who are disrespecting Africa. So now French, you have the disrespect for Africans and the disrespect for FBA, who are the loudest voices in the room. Thank you, The Raw. I appreciate you. But think about what I just said. The fringe and the disrespectful ones are the loudest voices in the room. The loud minority. The loud minority is driving the narratives from both sides. That's why we need more explanations like and conversations like what Van Lathan just did and come about it from a sensible standpoint rather than from a antagonistic standpoint or a contentious standpoint to say, forget all you Africans, we finna bang on all you Africans. That's not helpful. Understand the root of the problem. We are dealing with symptoms and we are combating symptoms, but what's the root of the problem? Now, that doesn't mean we don't deal with the symptoms, because we got a whole lot of symptoms to deal with, but what's the root of the problem? All right. So, one thing that we keep learning is all enemies ain't white. A lot of our enemies look just like us. And it's time for us to learn how to distinguish between who's who. And there needs to be delineation throughout the diaspora, and I don't have a problem with that. But within Foundation of Black Americans, we need to delineate from the niggas. And I'm not going to speak on anybody else's culture. I'm speaking on my culture. We need to delineate from the niggas. Now, cultural delineation, I don't have a problem with it. Every group of people have a right to define themselves for themselves. Every group of people have a right to self-actualization. Every group of people have a right to do that. But for those who have a problem with delineation, the problem is, why do you all have a problem with delineation? Why do you call delineation divisive, especially when the rhetoric from the bulk of FBA is not divisive? Is there divisive rhetoric? Yes, from the niggas, but not from the average FBA person. So yes. I appreciate you, Bit. That Bit from BDDYS. I appreciate you. Say what narrative delineation is the movement. Never mind. Hey man, I appreciate y'all tuning in on this good Saturday. Remember, I'll be live again Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Shoulders of Giants. And we're gonna jump into this Lindsey Clancy case and see why so many Black women and Black people are supporting Lindsey Clancy. Even though if that was a Black woman, it's a good chance she wouldn't be in that space. She wouldn't be getting the grace that Lindsey's getting from the social realm, not necessarily from the courts. But with that being said, I appreciate you all. I love you all. Thank you all for the support. PC, I appreciate your super chats. Everybody who contributed. Oh, let me go make sure I do this right by name. I don't want to miss nobody. That's a lot of comments up here. That's what I like. Where is? All right, PC, I appreciate you for your contribution, my brother. Be Easy, I appreciate you for your contribution. PC, again, I appreciate you. All right, that's it. I appreciate y'all. Appreciate everybody who continue to support this channel. And go into the comments. Please go into the comments and support my brothers, Patrick Irvin and Professor Carl Tone Jones. My brother, Patrick Irvin, this is his book, The Chasm. This is the best book you're going to read about how the system of white supremacy worked overtime to divide the Black family, the Black man from the Black woman, and destroy Black love. So make sure y'all available on Amazon, The Chasm. It's the growing divide between Black men and women. And then my brother, Professor Carl Tone Jones, 2020 Through the Eyes of a Social Media Revolutionary. It is also available on Amazon. Make sure you get your copy. He's chronicling himself going through 2020 as a revolutionary. And also make sure you get a copy of the Professor's groundbreaking documentary, The Independence Day Project, which is available on my website, and it's scrolling at the bottom of the video. You can see it scrolling on theshoulders1.com. So make sure you get your copy. And that's also where you get copies of my books, On the Shoulders of Giants, volumes 1 through 4, where I am giving stories of sung and unsung heroes of the African diaspora. And I also have a children's book that's going to be dropping real soon. So, and shout out to my Black History School. Today we were able to, we went on our third field trip, and we were able to visit the Union Bank here in Tallahassee, Florida, which is one of the oldest structures, I think, in the United States or in Florida when it comes to like commercial banking and things like that. And we learned about a lot of the local and state history of Florida, the Black history of Florida. So shout out to my Black History School. And so Lisa, thank you for becoming a member of this channel. Thank you. Welcome to the family. You're gonna love it over here. I appreciate you all. And let's remember, let's go out. Let's us be the best versions of great Black people that we can be. Let's us contribute to getting better. Let's us contribute to the empowerment. Let's us contribute to the uplifting and the upward movement of Black people. Oh, we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk, Elizabeth. We definitely gonna talk. I appreciate that. So once again, like I always say, let's be the best versions of Black people that we can be. Love yourselves and love those around you. And I love y'all. And I see y'all Tuesday. Peace out.